Hi, I'm Reg McDaniel. Welcome back to the Emergency Preparation and Cooking Show. We've been talking about, as you know, different sources for cooking and different fuels for cooking. And I have a newfound friend that might interest you that you can get some of these supplies from and the alcohol fuel we've talked about. I'd like to welcome today Jay Wimpy. Come on up, Jay. Good to have you on our show.
It's nice to be here.
Okay, so Jay, tell us a little bit about, this is the greatest stove that I really like. Everybody should have one of these. So you go into it and explain to us how it works and all that.
Okay. Maybe I could put this in perspective just a little bit. I think everyone's familiar with propane cookers and also maybe the charcoal briquettes. But something that you may have not thought of is alcohol. It's used quite commonly in Europe as a fuel, and it has a lot of positive advantages. And so I thought we would just go over that just so you can become familiar with it. And as I mentioned, we do have a local source that, and we could provide that for you.
In fact, you're the local source here in Utah.
Yes.
And you can see his name and his phone number on the screen right now. So go ahead and if they want to get a 55-gallon drum or 5-gallon barrel, you can provide that for them.
Right.
Okay.
Yep, I can help them out.
Okay.
First of all, alcohol stoves, and this is the actual heater unit, are very simple. Basically, no moving parts. We have a lid, which is gasketed so that you don't waste the alcohol that's in the stove once you're done cooking, and we just have to fill the center part with alcohol. The whole unit is simply a little tank, I guess, or a little reservoir for the alcohol, and once the center part gets heated up, this annular region around the edge gets heated up, and the alcohol actually vaporizes and comes out a series of little holes around there, and it makes something a lot like a gas flame.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to light it, and then we're going to turn on all the lights in the studio here and see if we can get a good picture of it with it lit in the dark.
Okay.
Okay.
There's one consideration with alcohol that you have to be aware of. The flash point is roughly 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Therefore, if it's substantially colder than that, alcohol can be difficult to light. Therefore, with each of these kits, there is a flask that you could keep in an inside pocket in your jacket if you're out in the cold, and that would keep the alcohol warm enough to light conveniently. Mm-hmm. Other than that, if you have a lighter or a good solid wooden match that can where the flame can actually dwell on the top of the alcohol, then that can get it lit as well. One of the advantages is, of course, if you happen to spill a drop or two here or there, it evaporates completely, just like water, and therefore it doesn't tend to leave a mess.
Plus the monoxide, there's no monoxides on that.
It tends to burn clean because it's such a small molecule. This is just a little bit cold, and you see I'm letting the flame dwell there for a moment. Wanted to show you what it might take. And there, now it's lit, and it's just a kind of a blue flame, a little bit of orange to it. But the way this heater works is, or the way the cooker is actually designed, is that the heater unit can be placed on the ground. This unit that actually has a support for a pan can be placed around the heater unit, and then a chip of paint in there. A pot can be placed on there, and this pan can actually be used as a lid for the pot, or it can be used as a pan for like as a frying pan for the whole unit, and it's supported right there. It gets oxygen through these little holes on the edge.
Okay.
And
we don't want it to get too hot.
Yeah, we don't want it to get too hot. So anyway, that's how the unit works. Alcohol can be stored in either polystyrene or polyethylene containers. The plastics don't really mind the alcohol very much. Chemically, it's kind of like half of a polar solvent, like a petroleum fuel, and the other half's a lot like a water. So anything that you
now you have a little bit of a background in chemistry, don't you?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. My background's in chemical engineering.
Okay.
And so I deal with this a little bit.
Well, tell me this, do you have a ballpark idea of what kind of a shelf life, if you have a 55-gallon drum of this alcohol out in your shed, out in the backyard, it's going to last you as far as weather and cold and things like that. indefinitely, or you think it has a time span?
The fuel itself is chemically very stable. It doesn't tend to react with itself like gasoline and a lot of the other petroleum fuels. Therefore, I would say it will last indefinitely. There's not really a shelf life on it.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to hear it straight from a person like yourself that has qualifications to answer that question.
It'll outlast the container. If you do store it in a polyethylene container outside, you just need to make sure that it's covered so that it doesn't sun rot. But basically, the fuel will outlast the container, and so that's your primary consideration, is just making sure that you have a good container to keep it in.
Then as a small review then, you want to be sure that if you have this in a 55-gallon drum, you have the ability to pump it out of that drum. And you brought something that you could pump that out with. Why don't you grab that right quick? So you can put it in smaller containers.
Yeah, these pumps that you're familiar with, you may have seen them at some of the grocery stores or your preparedness stores. Just a very simple little siphon pump made out of polyethylene. I currently use these to transfer alcohol on a regular basis, and again, sun rot is my biggest concern with something like this, but they tend to last up to a couple of years, even out in the elements. If you keep them covered inside, they'll last a good long time.
And you've had quality things. Some of them last forever, and a few of them might break quickly.
Yes, these are made in Korea or China or something like that. So
right.
Every once in a while, the diaphragms fail prematurely. So
you want to have one or two or three as a backup.
It's always good to have a backup.
Yeah,
and,
if that's one of the ways you're going to get it out of the 50-gallon drum.
Correct.
Okay.
And they actually have a threaded plug here that
fits right in
fits right in the 2-inch NPT.
And when
lungs.
When you sell the alcohol, you provide the drum as well.
Right.
That's plastic. Okay, great.
Yeah. So I provide an appropriate container.
Okay. Well, we'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. Okay, go ahead and put it out, and then let's show them how it fits all together as a unit for portability.
Okay. All right. And when we're done cooking, we just smother the flame. We can immediately seal it up.
And do you have to let that cool down generally before you?
Actually, it's warm, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not going to melt anything.
Yeah, it's not going to melt anything. So actually, we can just drop that in the. Drop that in the pan. You can put this cover over the top, and then close that, and it locks the top on top. We fold. I have to fold the right one first. We fold this unit down to where it collapses. The pot slips down into there. You just have to make sure the lid goes around there, and
so they can see in the front too.
And it fits all into one piece. And oops, we just have to get it to go all the way down. And and then it can be, well, it's basically one little unit with a carrying handle or something that you can hang in a tree or something of that nature.
Okay.
There is also a flask that comes with this, so that you can put this in the inside pocket in order to keep the fuel warm and make sure that it will be warm enough to light.
Okay.
Conveniently.
Great.
That was good. Okay.
Hi, I'm Reg McDaniel. Welcome back to the Emergency Preparation and Cooking Show. We've talked in the past about acetyl alcohol or isopropyl alcohol, rubbing alcohol, as a great fuel source, especially in a 55-gallon drum, that it can last indefinitely. And so we have on my show again today my guest Jay Wimpy. Come on up, Jay.
Thanks.
Good to have you on the show.
Nice to be here. Thanks.
And Jay's going to show us a device that he has that I hope to get someday. I don't own everything I show everybody. I try to own a lot of it, but I don't own one of these. They're a little pricey. What are they, about $150 or so dollars?
Right close to $100.
$100, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, go ahead and tell us about this great source for heat and whatnot.
This is actually a heater and a cooker. It's rated at 5,100 BTUs per hour, and so it's would provide a heat for a room fairly handily. The unit is very simple. The burner unit and also the fuel storage unit is just a stainless steel canister, and it has this wick material actually throughout the canister. It holds roughly a quart of fuel.
A quart, okay.
And in order to fill it up, it doesn't have a real good reservoir up there. But if you just if you just want to hold that funnel, and as you can see, You can handle alcohol in most any common plastic container. It's not all that chemically reactive. Oops, we might actually, they recommend getting just right over there on the side.
Okay.
And this is how you charge the unit. You have to be just a little bit patient. Lighting or filling the unit with fuel. We'll just go with that since it already had some fuel in it. Yeah.
Okay.
The good thing is also with alcohol that it tends not to be very messy. If you happen to spill a drop or two, it completely evaporates and doesn't cause you any.
Now this actually has a
problems.
name. What's it called as far as the stove itself?
This is called Heat Pal. The brand is Origo, and it's a Heat Pal 5100 for the 5100 BTUs per hour that it has. It comes in a canister case, and the well, I guess first of all we have to show you that on top of the unit is just a little burner control unit. As you can see, you can control the flame. You can completely smother it if you close that all the way, or you can open it up to get varying amounts of flame. It also has this little device on the top to make a little bit of turbulence with that flame, spread it out a little bit, some supports for a pan, and
so could you actually cook with this also?
Yes, it's designed to be a cooker or a heater.
Or a heater, okay.
And it just snaps down on top of this this can.
I personally like the thought of a heater because a lot of people get in a lot of trouble if they try to use the common canisters, what are they called, you know, that you cook with on a grill?
Oh, the what, the little butane stoves?
Yeah,
or
propane.
Or the propane stoves?
Yeah, they get asphyxiated, you know, whereas with this you don't have that problem.
Well, this also uses up oxygen, so you have to be in a well-ventilated area.
Right.
But
you can't be in a snow cave with no, you know, closed entrance, right?
Right.
Okay.
And well, and this makes it just a little bit safer. It snaps down into a canister. We just have to. There's a special slot for the controller, so it can poke outside, and you can see there's some little notches in the top there. And then once you get it placed in there, it's locked in until you peel or push the locks back, and then you can actually move the handle outside, so you can control that right there. And this is a surface where you can set a pan. It's getting oxygen for the flame up underneath, and so you can cook on this, and you can control the intensity of the flame using this little slide. You can light the unit either by using a match, or in this particular case I think a lighter is pretty handy. You can just put it down in there, touch that to the area, and sometimes it's a little slow getting started.
There you go, it's going.
Yeah, it's going, and so once it's lit, like I said, you can either you can control it, you can set a pan on it, or if you simply want to use it as a heater, it has this cover that goes on top, and you can just feel the warm air coming up through the top.
Now notice this is a nylon strap on here for probably carrying purposes, but that's not going to melt, is that right?
Right. Yeah.
It's welted on there.
Yeah, it's riveted on there so it doesn't come off. But you know, most of the heat comes up around the bottom, and the sides stay cold.
Yep, you can feel that. Wow, it's really, I can't leave my hand there.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of heat.
It's a great heat source.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell us about that?
No, not really. Well,
Okay.
you know, this is
as far as when you're carrying it, is this the size you carry it in, like you put it in a backpack or throw it in your car or something like that?
If you're well, it comes in a cardboard box, which is handy. But if you're going to carry it somewhere, it's intended that you could simply just turn off the flame by closing the slide all the way, and then the top part is meant to, well, the slide retracts. This goes down into the lower part. The strap comes up, and you can just carry it away like that.
See, I never would have guessed that, so I wanted the viewers to see that.
Oh yeah. Okay. So it's fairly handy, well thought out unit, and they use a lot of them in Europe, as I said. This also comes from Sweden, and they use a lot of alcohol fuel there, and this is one of the means of doing it.
Okay. Well, that's it for the moment. We'll see you in a few minutes, and we'll be right back.
Cut. Excellent.
Okay, welcome back to our Emergency Preparation and Cooking Show. I'm here with Jay Wimpy, and Jay, what is this we're going to look at right quick?
This is an alcohol lamp. It's actually, it was quite common a few decades ago when they didn't have natural gas in labs. This is the older version of the Bunsen burner, but they are still available. And it's just a little alcohol lamp that actually has some different corners on it to where you could turn it to the side, and if it wasn't entirely full, and you can actually heat up under something, and it does provide a fair amount of heat. But I think the major use for someone who is interested might be for light heating duties or for light. And I've practiced with these for light quite a bit, and it's just kind of a rechargeable candle, if you will. And you just light that wick, and as you can see, it makes kind of a yellow flame, and which produces a fair amount of light, enough to read or help you find your way around the house or do your dishes, whatever you need to. So this is a candle that tends to be non-smelly, burns pretty clean, and can be refilled an indefinite number of times.
Do you have a ballpark idea, if you fill it to the rim there, about how long that's going to last you, hour-wise?
Yeah, they go for about an hour.
About an hour?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
With the full.
So if you want to have the alcohol as a fuel alternative, it'd be wise to have 4 or 5 55-gallon drums, which you could store anywhere outside. Doesn't matter if it snows on them or anything.
Right, and they don't freeze in the winter or anything like
refill
that. And they don't overpressurize the drums in the summer. The vapor pressure is relatively low, and in fact, the vapor pressure is very similar to water as far as the evaporation.
Where would
rate.
they go to get a little device like this? Because I know you're not a distributor for them or anything. Where would they go to get that?
These lamps cost about $6, and they come from American Science and Surplus. And we can get you the phone number or the website for
And we'll
that.
show that on the screen.
Right.
Okay. Well, thank you for watching this little part, and we'll be right back after this.
Cut.
Hi, I'm Reg McDaniel, and welcome back to the Emergency Preparation and Cooking Show. My guest today is Jay Wimpy. I've had him on different episodes throughout the season, and he's going to show us a few things that we can use in our emergency preparation equipment that he actually offers if you want to get a hold of him to buy some of these things. Come on, Jay. Thanks for coming to our show today.
Yeah, it's nice to be
Welcome back again. And so tell us about these different devices you found and that people can buy from you if they're interested.
Okay, well, first of all, there's MRE heaters, and maybe I could explain a little bit. In my own search or quest to be better prepared, if I run out into something that I think other people will be interested in and I get a good deal, I usually try to buy more and sell them to people. The MRE heaters are produced by the military for heating the meals for the soldiers. You're probably, most people are familiar with the little pouch envelopes with different types of food in. It's all ready to eat, except for it could be kind of cold.
And for those who don't know, MREs are meals ready to eat. That's what that stands for.
Yes.
Okay.
Meals ready to eat. But you can we can actually procure the heaters that they use for those meals in bulk quantities if desired. They have quite a few uses. First of all, you can cook food. You can actually fill this. Well, the way they work is you fill them with a little bit of water. You just put a little bit of water down at the bottom. It tends to soak through this cardboard pad in there, and then it heats up to the boiling point of water for about 30 or 40 minutes. And that's enough to heat a meal. It can heat your cocoa or your mush, whatever you can get it next to. We've done some experiments using some of those little flexible insulated lunch boxes, and you can put a couple of these in there with a can of chili, and and wait a half an hour to an hour, and it's pretty nice and toasty. At least at serving temperature and ready to eat. They are very simple to use. They have a little notch in the plastic, so you don't have to use a pair of scissors, and you just peel the top off like that. You open up the neck, and you use a little bit of water, and you can just kind of watch the water go down to the bottom there.
Yeah, there's a fill line.
Yeah, there's a fill line. So once you get the fill line up to the fill line, then you stop. You can just turn it on its side and make sure that it's mostly soaked through that. And then you just have to wait for a couple of minutes for it to heat up. And again, you can. It is recommended that you just put this with something to the side where the water won't run back out, but it'll just you can put whatever you want to heat right there, and you can feel it's cold right now.
Yeah,
It's just
good.
cold water, and
So this is almost like a heat pad, if you will. So it's
Right.
not like you put it inside the container. You just set it on top of it, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And the instructions for using an MRE meal are in there, and they're usually a plastic pouch that comes with a cardboard outer container, and this is meant to be able to slip in to the side of that meal and heat it up. And they say if it's frozen, you might have to use 2 of them to get it heated up. You can tell it's already getting warm now,
Yep.
and then it'll get really warm here in a little bit. There's lots of uses for these. You know, I've used them when I've been outside. If you get a little bit cold, you can actually activate one, slip it inside your jacket, and just hold it there. It's kind of like having a little hot water bottle. Or you can just put it on your seat and let it bend a little bit, and it'll heat you up there. It's relatively light. You know, you can take a dozen of them here, and what, you know.
About a half a pound.
Yeah, half a pound. So, you know, you could throw a couple of these in the trunk of your car, and it's not going to cost you a lot of fuel to pack them around. But say if you ever got stopped in your car, you needed to either get yourself a little bit warm or melt some snow to make some water, you've got a temporary source of heat that will.
Wow, you
yeah,
can
see
burn
now.
yourself now.
Now it's hot enough to where you can't really keep your hand on it anymore, and it's going to maintain that for about 30 minutes. So it's just a quick, convenient, light source of heat, and you can let your imagination be your guide.
Okay. And show us the next device you got there.
Well, something else that I've run onto is some desiccant pouches. You can actually get bulk desiccant, and these little beads absorb moisture. And there's lots of things that we want to store that we might want to eliminate the moisture. One thing is grains and beans. Your food, you want to keep them dry,
So this
and
would
that
be in
keeps the
lieu of an
bacteria from
oxygen
growing.
packet, right?
Yes, in lieu of an oxygen packet, and especially if you plan on sprouting those grains and beans later on, they can handle the dryness, but they can't handle being without oxygen for an indefinite period of time. So you can simply put your bags of grain in there, and you can see maybe the MRE heaters actually make a little bit of steam over there now.
Look at this.
So it's getting nice and toasty.
That's hot.
And heating things up. But anyway, this is just a handy material to keep things dry. Food, or say a lot of people actually buy these to put in a gun case or a cabinet to keep it absolutely dry in there to make sure that they don't.
Now, are these
rust there.
reusable?
They are reusable, and the instructions to recharge them are right on the back. So if they get full of moisture, the reactivation time is 12 hours at 245. So you just lay these out on a cookie sheet, put them in your oven overnight, and they will recharge and be able to be used again.
Now, the reason I really like this product, and I wanted you to show that the viewers on the show, is in contradiction to what you just said, you can put this in a solar oven at that temperature, and so you don't, in an emergency situation, you don't have to have a gas stove or an electric stove or oven, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's a great way to be able to reuse something over and over again, which doesn't usually happen when you're using things like this. So you have your 5-gallon bucket, you've got it full of wheat, beans, rice, whatever. Put this right on top, put your lid down, knock it down, and then when you open it up, you can put it in your solar oven, reuse it again. That's
Right.
a great product.
They're made to absorb moisture a little bit slow, and then they give it off a little bit slow as well. But that way, it can handle being out and be handled for say an hour or two, without becoming fully saturated with moisture, and then you can recharge it. This is basically the same material, only it comes in a bulk package. And in order to use this with your food, you'd simply have to come up with a little patch of fabric, pour some in the middle of the fabric, gather it up, tie it so it doesn't get mixed in with your grain, but it would do exactly the same thing. And I have this available at a little bit of a lower price.
Okay.
And the other thing is, I just happened to run onto a bunch of grease. This is a silicone-based grease. It's relatively light. It also has molybdenum in it to keep it from, or to retard any type of corrosion. So basically, if you had any type of equipment that you wanted to protect from corrosion, you just spread this on. If you happen to, say, take that piece of equipment, even dip it in water, if it's out in the rain, the The water will just bead up on it. It doesn't like the silicone. It just beads up and runs off. Plus, it's got that protective layer of molybdenum to
So what are some
retard the corrosion.
what are some pieces of equipment you can think of where a viewer in an emergency situation might want to use that product?
Well, weapons, of course,
Okay.
need to function reliably, and they also need a little bit of lubrication. And this actually is meant to be a low temperature silicone grease, but it works pretty good at the higher temperatures as well. But you could actually use this to keep guns and other types of weapons functioning reliably, even at low temperatures, and keep them from corroding, which you always have to handle. But other than that, you could actually seal up the seams of a tent or of a poncho. If you were getting a little bit of a leak somewhere, you could just spread some on there. It's a light colored grease, and so it's not, doesn't really tend to stain, but you wouldn't want to, this one's a little bit oily right on the end there, but you wouldn't want to put it on your best dress, but something like a poncho or a tent, it would work pretty good. And because it's light colored, it tends not to be too noticeable when you put it on there. And you could seal up, say, if you're trying to keep some electronics clean, some electrical connections. I know there have been some electrical or electronic people that have said that if they have a connection that they're trying to keep the water out of, if they have problems with it, they just dab a little bit of this grease on there. So anywhere where you want to keep moisture away and corrosion away.
What comes to my mind is some of our viewers, and this is on my wish list, are using solar panels. And so the wiring there, might want to use some of this on that wiring and keep moisture out. Okay, well, we'll be right back after this. Thanks.
Thanks.
Excellent. That's a lot better than those little hand warmer things.
Yeah, but that's what we use them for.
Yeah, it's kind of like a hand warmer on steroids, but it's a lot of heat.
I wish you would have said that on the show. That's a good hand warmer on steroids.
Okay, yeah, these are like a hand warmer on steroids. They don't go for 12 hours in your pocket, but they do get hot enough to actually scald you, and for about a half an hour to 40 minutes, and they give you a lot of heat. You just have to have a little bit of insulation on the inside, and you can put them inside your jacket. They also tend to need to vent a little bit of steam, so you have to vent, but you have a relatively long neck, and it's not too hard to do that.
It's an amazing thing.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.